The 1920s. A cinema in Moscow. This is the heroine of the film Tretья Mещанская, Third Mещанская Street. What will she see on the screen? What will it be? Why are these people so happy? Don't they see that Russia is being destroyed? It isn't the destruction of Russia, it's the triumph of the Russian idea. After the fall of Byzantium, Moscow became the main stronghold of orthodoxy. Suddenly, the Russian people felt that they were alone and understood their role in this world to safeguard the true faith of orthodoxy. In order to bear this cross, the Russians had to forget their ancestors and reject their very Russianness. It is written, "Leave your father and your mother and follow me." The Russian idea is not the idea of the Russian nation. It's about waiting for the coming of the kingdom of God on earth. So now every new idea was put to the test. Perhaps this is the kingdom. In reality, the period of waiting became a time of schism and upheaval. The burden proved to be a heavy one. At the beginning of the 20th century, a revolution took place in Russia. The communist utopia was very similar to the longed-for kingdom of truth and justice, and found a ready response in the Russian soul. In the whole history of the Russian idea, this was the first attempt to test it in real life. It's Moscow in the 20s. Life in Russia at the time was quite ordinary. The revolution and the civil war were over. People worked and relaxed. Life remains life, and people remain people. This is real life, defenseless, delicate, uncontrollable, and quite oblivious to the world of great ideas. The strength of reality like this lies in its weakness. It's quite senseless, meaningless, and comic, but it's indestructible and all-pervasive. It seems to absorb so easily any idea, only to reduce it straight away to nothing. These sequences are devoid of any particular meaning, and signify quite simply what they signify. Perhaps that's the true nature of cinema. The primacy of reality over abstraction was irrefutable for many great masters of the cinema, the Italians, the French, and the Czechs, for example, but it was not recognized by revolutionary Russian film directors. In the 20s, the Soviet Union produced many films depicting everyday life. Significantly, most of them were comedies. It was privately admitted that reality wasn't worth serious discussion. At best, it was doomed to be a mere source of amusement. Nice films, charming and humorous. But Russian cinema became famous thanks to quite different films, quite different artists, and quite different ideas. The new Russian cinema was not about entertaining people. It had a quite different aim, to change the world. To that purpose, it created its own reality, its own past, and its own future. In order to change this imperfect world, it was necessary to prove that it was bad. In the epic films of Alexander Dovzhenko, Sergei Eisenstein, and Vsevolod Pudovkin, the past was made into a nightmare. It was this image which made it easier for the artist to aspire to a harmonious future. If the past is a terrible nightmare, then the radiant future becomes brighter and more beautiful. For the time being, we can see it only in our dreams. One of the most famous Russian legends tells of the city of Kitiezh, which lies under the waters of a lake inhabited by the righteous. It sank beneath the waves during a time of trouble and will rise to the surface when the kingdom of God is established. Russian communists talked in exactly the same terms, the only difference being that they called the kingdom of God the radiant future. All this will happen. It is sure to come. The radiant future is close. It will appear by itself without warning. The only thing we have to do is clear space for it, quickly sweep away the dirt, abolish hateful reality, and destroy it. Directors who eagerly filmed orgiastic scenes of destruction were equally fascinated by the eternal beauty of the world. This is so good that the only thing left is to die. After this, everyday existence on Earth seems almost an insult. The Russian idea doesn't recognize, doesn't love, doesn't value everyday life. Private life, the family, love between man and woman, all lie outside the bounds of the Russian idea. Individual personalities don't mean anything to it. The individual has only one path to take, the path of sacrifice. In the Bible it is written that a seed which falls on the ground must perish if it is to bring forth fruit. In the great Russian films, the theme of sacrifice has a religious sense. The hero perishes calmly, knowingly, and with dignity, for the sake of the radiant future. This is not farewell forever. There, in the next world, the martyrs will awake. So their final journey is as radiant as their heroic deeds were. Look at this sequence. The hero of the film Mokraina, Outskirts, is a Bolshevik, but as he descends into the strange crater to swear fraternity with the enemy, the image reminds us of Christ in the wilderness. These are perhaps the most remarkable scenes in Boris Barnett's outstanding film, and they are very important to our theme. The Russian idea is first and foremost a religious idea. Russia has never been a bourgeois kingdom. The Russians have always had doubts about accumulating wealth and getting comfortably settled in their lives. There was always the feeling that an ordered life in this world was something for evil people who had abandoned Christ's truth, while good folk would wait for the second coming and the kingdom of God. Among the common people, those who sought after God's truth wanted Christianity to come true in reality. They didn't accept any compromise to fit in with the rules of the world. For the Russian people, the journey through life was conceived as a wanderer's path and a way of fleeing from the real world. It's what people in the West have always considered to be barbarity. The Russian people made every effort to seek salvation for all. It's the Russian idea that individual salvation is impossible. We can only be saved together. No other cinema in the world was as iconoclastic as Soviet cinema at the end of the 20s and beginning of the 30s. Militant atheism here reached the very limits of blasphemy, and yet no cinema was as religious as Soviet cinema. The Russian people were quick to believe in the communist utopia. Here at last was the path which overnight would lead to the long-awaited radiant future. The flag and the star became new symbols of faith. People believed in communism no less than in the coming of the kingdom of God. One of the most amazing episodes in the story of this new religion was filmed by Sergei Eisenstein. The film, Bierzyn Luk, Bierzyn Meadow, has survived only as a series of stills. A church is being torn down. But see here the faces of the wreckers in the empty icon frames. The bright faces of new saints. This isn't blasphemy, it's the confirmation of a new faith. Russian cinema of the period was provocatively suggesting that the kingdom of God was already here.
Подобает всегда царю осмотрительным быть. Ко благим милость и кротость, злым же ярость и мучения. Ежели сего не имеет, не есть царь. Ныне на Москве враги единства русской земли повержены. Руки свободны. И отныне засверкает меч справедливый против тех, кто извне посягает на величие державы российской. Обиду Русь.
The Russian idea doesn't recognize the state. It's not interested in nations, borders, or the power of earthly kings. It searches not for any kingdom, but the kingdom of God. The state, as part of reality, as a large piece of reality in itself, must be abolished and destroyed. But the Russian idea was always prone to the imperial temptation, as though you could simply create an earthly kingdom, and from there, in one short leap, reach the kingdom of God. The Russian communists, completely in accordance with the Russian idea, started with the destruction of the state. But hardly had they destroyed it than they set about rebuilding it. Very soon, the communist kingdom became stronger than any other in the history of Russia. The Russian idea had been overshadowed by the imperial temptation. This quiet, weak-minded man is going to his death. With second sight, he's already seen the assassin prepared for him. But he goes on towards the dagger, and so plays to the end his allotted role as sacrifice. Holy fools don't lay claim to princely power in this world. They can wear the Tsar's clothes only as a game. In Russia, the holy fool is a man of God. To murder one would be a terrible sin. Here, the Russian idea has come into conflict with the idea of the state. A Tsar of this world with a man of God. Ivan the Terrible, Eisenstein's last film, became the last film of the Russian idea. The film Ivan the Terrible links two eras in Russian cinema. The Russian idea recedes into the background. The idea of the state comes to the forefront. But that's another story in the world of cinema.